Hola, I'm Jorge Ramos.
And I'm Paola Ramos. And this is The Moment.
I love it. El momento. Okay, so the conversation that you're about to hear took place in San Francisco, California.
And unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person to record this interview. So this is technically the first remote interview of The Moment.
Yeah, but by the way, this is something we're going to do more often in order just to have access to people all around the country and honestly, all around the world.
But here's what this conversation is all about, because you don't want to miss it. We're talking to Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende is one of the most important and influential Latin American authors, thinkers,
By far.
feminists, by far. But you know what? This conversation, actually, you will hear her talk about being 82 years old and still falling in love, getting married at 82 years old. And yes, of course, she also will talk about democracy and dictatorships and fleeing Chile and how this country is very likely falling into authoritarianism. But you will hear her talk about love.
And feeling as a stranger in the United States.
As a stranger in the United States. And also, what people don't know, and you will likely find out, is that Isabel Allende is one of the people that my father admires the most. And so I got questions, George.
Yeah, well, we've been friends for 30 years now, since my father died and her daughter Paola died. So the conversation is going to be, I promise you, very intense and great, by the way.
Okay, we'll get more after the break.
Gracias, Isabel. So it's going to be a little awkward because this is the first time in which we have a conversation. We've never spoken in English, no?
Let's try.
Let's try. Let's see if it works. And I wonder if by speaking a language that is not ours, if there's a different part of your personality that comes out than in English.
I'm very funny in Spanish. Yeah.
In English, no?
No, it doesn't work in English. I try to translate, and my husband doesn't get it.
Yeah. So people say that your real language is the one you speak when you are really angry or when you're making love. But your love life is in English.
With Roger, it's in English because he doesn't speak Spanish.
And your previous husband with Willie, it was also in English.
He spoke perfect Spanish.
Okay, so the conversation was always in Spanish.
Yeah, he spoke like a Mexican bandido. Mm-hmm. But this guy is from Polish descent, raised in the Bronx. And he was raised by the Jesuits, so he spoke Latin for 12 years. And so sometimes he speaks to me in Latin and I reply in Chilean. And we get along.
Chilean is impossible to understand, by the way. Even for those of us who speak Spanish.
I have had a very interesting experience. I'm writing a memoir right now in Spanish.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, I was writing it in English, because if it's nonfiction, I can do both languages. But then my son said, why are you wasting your time? Finish it in Spanish, and then we will try AI and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm reading now the translation. And the translation is not perfect. A translator would do a much better job, but it is very good. And I can adjust it, and it's good, so that I can show it to my editor, in my American editor who doesn't speak Spanish.
So you can actually write in Spanish, then use GPT, and then get the translation, which is almost perfect.
No, not perfect, but works.
Yeah.
And I think it would work much better if it's not a literary work, for something that is, I don't know, technological or nonfiction.
Yeah. So let me ask you. Here I have the two versions of your new book. Mi nombre es Emilia del Valle. My name is Emilia del Valle. Would I find a difference between them? Is there something different? The tone?
I think it's the feeling. The translation is excellent, but there's a feeling of your own culture that I don't think is possible to translate. The weight of words. I always remember Neruda talking about bread. And bread is not just a loaf of bread. Bread is the people.
Yeah.
Bread is hunger. Bread is poverty. Bread is work. Bread is the home. It has implications that are very cultural. That it's impossible to translate the weight of it to another language. And I'm sure that from English to Spanish, we have the same problem.
Yeah, so my name is Emilia del Valle. You wrote it, obviously, in Spanish. Emilia is a journalist based in San Francisco. I wonder why.
because it was easy.
who decides to go to cover the civil war in Chile in 1891. And then of course, we have the suicide of José Manuel Balmaceda, who was as progressive as probably Salvador Allende. And then he commits suicide. And I wonder if you think that history repeats itself, or why do you approach what happened in Chile this way?
I was interested in the parallels between what happened with the Civil War in 1891 with President Balmaceda and what happened 80 years later in 1973 with the military coup. And I think that humanity repeats history, but not exactly. We don't walk in circles. I think we walk in a spiral. And it appears that we repeat everything, but in every turn, we learn something. And the big arc of history is toward more inclusion, more progress, more democracy.
So you see that there's progress.
Of course.
I mean, but look what happened with Balmaceda in 1991, and then it happened with Salvador Allende.
I'm speaking about...
And now we have Donald Trump.
Yes.
Well, that's another story. We'll get into that later.
But more, you know, I look back in history, in my own life, 80-something years, and they say, well, the past was better. It was never better. It was better for a few. But the great majority of people are much better today than before.
Okay, so history is not repeating itself exactly the same.
No.
So there's progress.
There is progress. And I'm realistic. I think that we will go through a very bad period that will last years, not only in the United States, in the world. This flirtation with autocratic governments and with fascism will be there for a while, and then it will go away. It will be replaced, as it always happens.
But since you just mentioned that, let me get into that. You see what's happening right here in the United States.
Yes.
No? We have the National Guard troops in the streets of
Washington.
many cities, masked agents everywhere, detaining people without a warrant. We have the Supreme Court that is allowing the police to use racial profiling against immigrants who have no criminal record. So are we losing the democracy here in the United States?
Yes, I think we are. And I think it will be very hard to get it back. The institutions will be broken and we will have to put them back together or replace them. But think of Germany during the time of the war. That was a system, an ideology that was meant to last 1,000 years. It was there to control the world. And in 4 years it was over. Because things happen and everything changes. The nature of the world, of history, is change.
Now, you said in the past, and I'm quoting, I don't want to live under dictatorship nor authoritarianism.
Yes, I don't. But now that we are living it, I am too old to leave unless I am forced to. If I am forced to...
But this is not a dictatorship yet. I mean, we have
getting there.
But we have the freedom, Isabel, to say whatever we want. I mean, especially you. You've always been completely open. And I don't think we're going to be arrested because of the things we're saying about the government.
No,
right?
but you might be harassed.
That's true. Well, I mean, journalists are being attacked, professors are being attacked,
their families
students,
are being threatened.
politicians.
Yeah. So you might be harassed and forced to live in fear and shut up. I am, as I said before, too old to be concerned because I have very little to lose. I am going to die in a few years, and so what? But I think of my son and I think of my grandchildren. And maybe they will get used to it. My son will not. My son is already thinking we need a plan B. We have to get out at some point.
Plan B meaning outside the United States, but not for you. I mean, Europe.
No, if he goes to live in the Congo, I will go with him.
So the possibility for the family, for the Allende family, is probably to leave if need be.
If things get really, really awful, we might have to leave. I don't want to do it, though. I want to stay here and speak up.
And that's exactly what you're doing.
But for the time being.
In comparison, what happened with Pinochet is not what's happening right now.
No.
Or let me ask you, do you see similarities?
I see parallels. But this country, the United States, is huge. It's not a homogeneous country. It's many nations and tribes within the same territory, much more difficult to control than what happened in Chile in 1973. But there are many forms of establishing an authoritarian government that is not necessarily a military coup. You start by dividing people. The way to control is division. So people eventually don't even talk to each other. And then you establish a system of fear. People are afraid.
And people are afraid.
People
right
are
now.
afraid. And when people are afraid, they are paralyzed. And then you can act.
There's so much fear. I mean, I've been lately to Los Angeles and DC. I've been to the border, New York. There's fear. There's fear everywhere.
Yeah, I know. My foundation works at the border.
Yeah.
With refugees and immigrants.
What are you seeing?
What you have seen, that the organizations and the lawyers and the people we support are afraid. They are still working. Some of them have had to close because there's no funding. And the work they can do is very limited. For example, we have several lawyers that have been working with the documents for immigrants, and they were on the verge of getting them a green card or something. Everything went back. All is lost.
So you moved to the United States in the 1980s?
Yes, in 88.
Yeah, and then you became a U.S. citizen, but you're also Chilean.
Yeah.
These two identities, how do they coexist? La chilena y la americana.
It is strange, Jorge, because I feel foreign in this country. I'm a foreigner.
Yo también, I feel as a foreigner.
I've been living here for decades, but I have an accent, and I'm not like everybody else. I don't quite fully belong. But when I go back to Chile, I have the same feeling, that I'm there for a week and then I start realizing that I don't belong there either. So I'm a visitor on this planet.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying, because I feel the same way. I've been in this country since 1983, and I still feel as an outsider and stranger. Y quizás la palabra en español, extranjero, it's more appropriate. And then it's not only that you're not completely accepted, but you're the other, no? Tú eres el otro. So once you told me that after 9/11 here in the United States, that before 9/11 people were asking you if you were from Chile or from the United States, and you had different answers. But after 9/11, you felt for the first time that you were part of this country. That feeling is not here anymore.
I felt that I belonged because for the first time I saw people united in this country in a place of vulnerability. No longer the bragging, swaggering Americans were finally confronted with what can happen in their own territory. And I felt that I was part of that because I had lived it before. And now I feel that the same, that I belong in this country also to a certain extent. But what's happening is very disturbing. So disturbing that in a way I think I always talked about the possibility that it could happen. 40 years ago when I came to the United States, I told Willie, my husband then, this is a very fascist country. I said, what are you talking about? This is the cradle of democracy. And I said, look at the history. Look at slavery. Look at everything that has happened in this country. And half the population has weapons, is armed to the teeth. And anything can happen because given the wrong circumstances, an economic crisis and a war, an authoritarian government, anything can happen.
So how would you define this moment? You said it's a moment of fear.
Of fear of crisis and great corruption of everything, personal corruption of the people who are in power, but also corruption of the system, of the institutions, of the Supreme Court, of everything is being deteriorated to an extent that is unimaginable in such a short time.
So you live in Venezuela for how many years?
13 years.
Okay, so just to understand, you, after the coup in Chile, 73, then in 75, is that when you moved?
I stayed for a year in Chile, and then I left, I went to Venezuela. And I lived there for 13 years, and then I met Willie here on a book tour, and I moved to the United States.
Okay, let me stay with Venezuela, because recently I saw a comment that you made. Clearly, you believe that Venezuela is a dictatorship with Nicolás
Yes,
Maduro.
it's a terrible political situation.
Exactly. So we all want Nicolás Maduro to be out of Venezuela.
Yeah.
But as you know, the U.S. is putting a lot of pressure, military pressure. And you said that you don't believe that a U.S. intervention is the way to get rid of Nicolás Maduro.
No, I think that you have to be very careful with an intervention. Look what happened in Afghanistan, in Iraq, 20 years of occupation. Do they want that? People don't know what a military occupation is. Ask the people in Gaza what a military occupation is. So be very careful with that. It's like in the United States, people have no idea what an authoritarian government is. The people who know about that are the African Americans, because they suffered it a lot in all their history. They suffered discrimination and abuse and exploitation in ways that the whites have not suffered. So you can sort of flirt with the idea because you don't know what it is.
So you agree with the idea that Nicolás Maduro should not be in power in Venezuela?
Of course.
But to get rid of him is not with a military occupation or with a U.S. military operation?
I think that it will reinforce the military in Venezuela because everybody gathers around the idea of war. It makes him only stronger unless he flees the country.
So you're expecting the dictatorship to break from within?
Yes, it has such huge opposition, such intelligent resistance that it will eventually end. Of course it will. Look, if it ended in Chile when they had all the power in the world, it crumbled.
Let me ask you about home and where is home for you. So I've been thinking about where home for me is. I don't know on how many homes I live in the United States, how many houses.
Yeah.
But so when I think of home, I think of the place where I grew up in Mexico with my brothers and sister. And I close my eyes, and that's when I don't have nightmares, when I have good dreams, then I think of that house. And I sort of walk that house in my dreams when I'm maybe 6, 7, 8. And that's the only peaceful place that I know. So I wonder where home is for you.
Wherever the people I love are. So home for me is here right now because I have Roger, Nico, and Lori. So that's
Roger, your husband, Nico, tu
my
hijo.
son and my daughter-in-law. But what you were saying about the house of the dreams, the house of the past, I grew up in my grandparents' house in Santiago. It was not a happy place. And my childhood was not happy, so I don't have good memories of it.
¿No?
But I go back
Pero
there.
la Casa de los Espíritus viene de ahí, ¿no?
Claro, viene de ahí, but it was not a happy place. And I go back there, like all the inspiration comes from those very deep early roots.
So it was not a happy place?
No, it was not.
Because?
Not for me, as a child. Because the House of the Spirits is fiction to begin with. I lived in my grandparents' house, and my mother was a charity case because my mother married the wrong man. She was 25 years old and returned to her parents' house with 2 babies in diapers and me. I was not even 3 years old. And no money, no education for work. She was a spoiled señorita and without a husband at a time when there was no divorce in Chile. And so she had to live under her parents' roof, and she had schooling for the kids and clothes and food, but no pocket money.
Yeah.
So my mother couldn't buy an ice cream for us.
So you didn't want to be your mother? Never?
Not like her, no.
So you grew up in opposition to that idea?
Yeah, I wanted to be like my grandfather, who had the keys of the car, the keys of the house, the money, everything. Everything. I wanted to be like him.
Okay, now look at you. I mean, you...
I got it.
Yeah.
But it's been
You're
completely long
independent.
struggle.
You're powerful. You're empowered. You say whatever you want. You're a free woman, completely.
In a way, I am. I feel that way, yeah.
I have a question from my daughter, Paola, and I want to ask you that. But before doing that, I think we never spoke about you being a mother, because I've always thought of you as my friend and as a writer and as an independent woman, but not as a mother. And I wonder if you feel complete as a mother, or with the guilt that I feel that I haven't spent enough time with my children, that you feel the same way, a certain guilt that you did everything, but were not completely present in their lives?
Look, Jorge, this idea of parenting is a new thing. Before, you had kids, and you spent time with the kids, and you gave them everything you could, but you were not watching them and trying to make them happy forever all the time. So my kids grew up like all the other kids, playing in the street, walking alone to school, fending for themselves. And if you ask Nico, my son, he says that he had a very happy childhood, exactly because his mother wasn't on top of him.
Because you were not around all the time.
No. I had 3 jobs often. And maybe I wasn't there, but I was present in so many ways. I was the person who was them all the time. If not physically, emotionally, all the time. And we were talking with Nico the other day that we have been separated only 2 years in our lives. Wow. Nico is 57 years old, and the 2 years in which he was married in Venezuela and I married Willie here were the only 2 years in our lives that we have not been at more than 15 minutes distance from each other.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I mean, it's a relationship that is incredibly profound and solid, but not crazy. It's not the Oedipus thing at all.
People should know that he's the one who coordinated this interview and many others that we had in the past.
He runs the foundation with his wife. And it's interesting. The other day I said, you know, Nico, I realized that I never stopped to tell you that I'm very grateful and that I love you. Claro. He said, I know, I don't. Just don't say it. I mean,
Eso es muy chileno, no sé qué.
No, don't say it.
Don't get too close. Many of your characters are strong, curious, compassionate women. Did you want to create a feminist world?
No. I write about women because I know them so well. I've been with women and working for women all my life. And I have a foundation whose mission it is to invest in the power of women and girls. So I know all these characters that appear in my books usually have been inspired by someone that I have met. Yeah. The life of some of these women is just incredible.
Let me ask you about machismo. I know I made you very uncomfortable when I asked you about the Nobel Prize for literature. but is there a lot of machismo in the fact that you haven't gotten it yet?
I have no idea, but that there is machismo in literature, in the book industry, there still is a lot. When I started with the House of the Spirits and it became a sudden success in Europe, women had been writing in Latin America for centuries, but there was not one name in the boom of Latin American literature. The men occupied all the space. And they protected each other, and all the awards and all the opportunities and everything was between them. It was a club, a male club.
Oh, exactly. But in that male club, then Isabel Allende came, and then you sold more books than most of them together.
But the thing is that I never belonged to the club. I was possible.
Still you don't belong to the club.
No, I don't.
Once you told me that las críticas más fuertes, the most criticism comes from Chile.
Chile.
¿De verdad?
Yeah, the hardest critics were always Chilean.
And still today?
It has changed since 2014 when I got the National Book Award, the literary award that the country gives every 4 years. And then I got some respect. But my colleagues always treated me badly.
They should be so proud of you.
Except Scarmeta, who was always nice, and Puero. But the rest, I think they were sort of angry that I sold more books. Yeah.
And still do. So I have the question from Paola, te la quiero presentar.
Of course.
Tú no la conoces. Paola quería estar aquí. But anyway, she sent the question.
She's your daughter, no?
My daughter Paola, sí.
Isabel, I know that you've always identified as a feminist. And so at a time when the U.S. feminist movement seems to be fractured, and seems to be lacking a collective, unified voice, particularly in Donald Trump's America, what do you think the movement here can learn from feminists in Latin America and in Chile? What should they be seeing there?
Look, Paola, I have seen everything. I started working as a feminist when I was very, very young. And I have seen how much we have advanced and the backlash, and how the movement makes mistakes and then corrects the mistakes. It's a revolution. And in every revolution, there is no map. We just improvise the best we can. And in the United States right now, there is rampant misogyny that men are not even embarrassed anymore. And I think that will provoke a feminine reaction. Women will react to this. Young women today in many places, not only the United States, don't want to call themselves feminists because it's not sexy. And they think that getting a man is more important. But there's a point when you realize that if you are not vigilant, if you don't defend your rights, you lose them immediately. Think of Afghanistan. Taliban comes, and in 24 hours, women lose everything they had acquired in the last 20 years. In the United States, reproductive rights are threatened and have ended in many places. And respect for women, there's a war against women. Women have to realize that.
Going back to your book, you said that the last book, in a way, is to honor your stepfather, El Tío Ramón.
Yeah, the character of Papo in the book is like my stepfather, Tío Ramón.
We've talked in the past about being alone and painful in tragedy in your life. So, again, the distinction between, in Spanish, no decimos solo estás solo, sino en México hay una palabra que dicen soy solo o soy sola, which is much stronger, no? So after Paula and then your father, your stepfather, and your mother, ¿estás sola? Are you alone? And I maybe not, that's not the right question in English. No?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah. Ser solo. No?
Yeah. You know, I think that I have invented a way of keeping them alive. Mm-hmm. So let me give you a stupid example. Okay. I have the photographs of my mother and Paula on the sink where I brush my teeth. So 3 times a day I say...
And you have a conversation with them.
I have a conversation. Of course, I know this is all made up in my mind. Oh. I'm not seeing ghosts, but I keep the presence. And when I have decided that I have a group of spirits that help me. This is all in my head. I know.
Casa de los Espíritus.
Mi casa de los, my house of the spirits. So let's say that I need help because I feel depressed, I feel lazy, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Then I call my grandfather, who comes and in 2 minutes, he instills discipline.
Yeah.
If I need common sense, I call Tío Ramón. If I need magic, I call my grandmother. And for everything else, I call Paula and my mother.
Yeah. I'm agnostic, you're agnostic too, right? So that's a little sad, don't you think?
Yeah, it would be much better to have God
exactly,
with you.
Because I was thinking it would be lovely, fantastic to know that I'm going to see my brother who died recently and my father and my cat Lola, no?
Yeah.
That would be beautiful, no?
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea. But if you can keep them alive inside yourself, in a way.
Yeah, you taught me that. That. So you're writing now a memoir for the last 10 years, from 2015 to...
2025.
Yeah, but you were telling me that it has to do more than anything about age and getting older.
No, I think that it has to do about life, love, and aging or death. Because it's the end of my relationship with Willie, which was a long love affair, the time I spent alone, a time of reflection. And then when I met Roger, and a new love came unexpected, new life.
At 80, no?
Yeah, we're in our late 70s.
Okay.
And he came into my life. And all this is under the cloud, let's say, or the umbrella of aging. Because this is not an original story, except for the fact that it happens very late in life. When most
you mean the love story?
The love story.
With Roger, yeah.
No, and the breaking up of a marriage. Because very few people decide at 74 to divorce when you have invested almost 30 years with the same person. So it's scary. But if it was not because of the age, it wouldn't have anything original.
So what's beautiful is that you kept love alive at all your life.
I have been chronically married all my life.
By the way, I just remember something funny. People don't know, but there's another love in this room, and you're sitting on it.
I was sitting. Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas, te lo voy a tener que enseñar.
Where is the cushion?
Can you show me the cushion?
You know,
there's Antonio Banderas everywhere in this office. So,
well, but let me explain. It's not that
there's an explanation here.
I'm not obsessively, compulsively in love with Antonio Banderas. No.
But you just have his face everywhere.
What happened, Jorge, is that I said once publicly that I was in love with him, and people started sending me pictures and cushions and all kinds of memorabilia. Yeah. Someone sent me a picture of Antonio Banderas naked.
No.
I have him in my shrine.
No, I don't believe that one.
He looks really good naked.
No comment on that. So you were talking about aging and ageism. Just recently, I saw that Kamala Harris thought it was reckless for Joe Biden to be in charge of the election campaign. But I was just saying, you and Joe Biden are the same age.
I look better than him.
Much better than him. much better than him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a mistake that he...
I think it was a mistake not to call primaries. I mean, the party and the people should have chosen the candidate.
Yeah, but probably I mean more the age, that he was not treated correctly, that there was ageism in the criticism.
I think that he demonstrated that he was losing it.
Yeah.
And he should have stepped out of the race.
So your great-great-great-granddaughter, what will she inherit from you?
Nothing. Zero.
Well, no money.
No.
I don't mean money, but what can she... In many years from now, in 100 years from now, when we're not here, she can say, what about you?
I hope that she can say my great-great-great-grandmother was one of the pioneers that made my life today possible as a woman. She changed the patriarchy. With other women, of course, it was a movement. But that would be what would really feel like a legacy. Because I'm asked all the time, what is your legacy? Yeah. There is no legacy.
Your books?
That's not a legacy. That will disappear in...
No creo. Yo creo que te vas
whatever. But if I am part of a chain, a link in a long chain, if I didn't break the chain, if I was there as a link to promote the end of the patriarchy to be replaced for something more reasonable, more sustainable, more just, more peaceful, more beautiful in every way, then that's my legacy. And I hope it will be in her genes.
Gracias. Listo.
The Moment is a production of Radio Ambulante Studios in partnership with iHeart's My Cultura podcast network.
Our staff includes Daniel Alarcón, Laura Rojas Aponte, Miguel Santiago Colón, and Lisa Cerda, with the help of Paola Leán, Diego Corso, Natalia Ramírez, Elsa Liliana Ulloa. The CEO of Radio Ambulante Studios is Carolina Guerrero.
Executive producers at iHeart are Arlene Santana and Leo Gomez. Pablo Cabrera and Dylan Unger also serve as producers.
If you like The Moment, pero también te gustan podcasts en español, look for Radio Ambulante, historias de toda América Latina, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Sound design, final mix, and theme song by Elias Gonzalez.
I'm Jorge Ramos.
And I'm Paola Ramos.
Thanks for listening.